Alright, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back. It's me, Addy, again. I hope you guys are doing alright. Today I wanted to do a short review of none other than Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. This video had to happen at some point, right? I mean, Final Fantasy VII is my favorite game of all time, and I loved the remake just as much as the original. If you want to see an in-depth video on why I love Final Fantasy VII so much, I've linked my video on that in the description below. It's a fun 40-minute video. Do check that out. We played through the base version of the remake last year when it came out on PS4, and I was blown away by how faithful the game was to its characters from the original game. The characters of Final Fantasy VII are its most important aspect to me, and in this regard, the remake excelled with flying colors. Not only did it stay true to the amazing personalities and everything we know and love about Cloud and his crew, but it did the impossible in my opinion, which was to improve upon them. The remake takes these characters and brings them to life, expanding upon them in ways that add so much vibrancy and depth. And it's such a joy to just see them all interacting with each other in beautiful modern generation graphics, right? And to see the ways in which their dynamics have improved from the original is such a treat, especially if you're a fan of the original Final Fantasy VII. The story, too, delivers on all fronts. The original game's story and the journey that the characters embark on is one that I hold very close to my heart. And so it was really important to me that this remake got the story right. And even though this remake covers the first 25% of the original, in my opinion, it did so beautifully. The remake and its story absolutely delivered. It takes the opening Midgar act of the original game and expands upon many of its plot points, characters, and more incredibly well. Seeing Midgar being brought to life was so goddamn satisfying in my opinion. Perhaps the really interesting thing about the story in this game is that while it does remain faithful to the original, and by the way, I won't go into spoilers for this one, so don't worry, but while it does remain faithful to the original game, it does also introduce bold new moments, concepts, and ideas, which are undeniably going to lead the story in the upcoming installments of the remake in an unknown direction. This has left many fans feeling confused, skeptical, and my personal favorite, excited, which is the exact category that I fall into personally. The reason for that is because now both the remake fans and OG fans both get to speculate together. We're all in the dark now, regardless of whether we've played the original game or not, and I love that. You know why? It's because it's emulating the exact same feeling of anticipation and excitement you got when you left Midgar for the first time in the original Final Fantasy VII. So, in terms of what was most important to me, the game killed it. Story and characters, 10 out of 10 in my opinion. The combat too was great. Now, I'm not so much of a combat fan / gameplay fan as much as I am a sucker for a great story with lovable characters in a video game, so I'll keep this part brief. But I thought that the transition from the original game's turn-based combat systems to a fully realized active combat system was done very, very well. The action was fun, visceral, and engaging. I loved getting to fight as my favorite cast of characters ever, and I loved how so many concepts from the original game such as materia, limit breaks, and more were carried over to this game and even kept the same in some areas. My only minor gripe with the combat was some of the aerial stuff. Unless you've got a character in your party with you like Aerith or Barrett at the moment, fighting some of the flying enemies in the game can be a bit annoying, but that's just a very small teeny tiny complaint that I have about an otherwise fantastic system. So Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, which came out this past June, was a PS5 enhanced version of the remake that we recently completed over on Twitch. Which, by the way, you can check out the full VODs for my playthrough both on Twitch and my second YouTube channel, both of which I have linked. We did 3 solid playthroughs of that game, including the amazing intermission story DLC that it includes, and we even recently 100% of the game, which was awesome, so I had a great time with it. Yes! The sound of victory, ladies and gentlemen! It paid off! The grinding paid off after 6.5 hours of tonight's grand finale stream. We've officially obtained the platinum and 100% in Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. After 20 episodes, almost 3 months of this game, we've finally done it, man. We finally done it. Let's freaking go. So Intergrade is essentially the same game as the base PS4 remake, except it takes all the stuff I loved about the remake that I talked about previously, such as the story, the characters, and the combat, and it presents it all with the glorious technical toppings of the PS5 console. 60 FPS, a higher resolution, and of course lightning fast load times with its SSD. Resume playing from where you left off? Hell yes, game. Holy shit! Did you guys see that load time right there? What? So this was the definitive way to experience my favorite game of 2020, and I had a blast. It was awesome. The biggest selling point of Intergrade though is the DLC that I mentioned, titled Intermission, which tells the backstory of fan favorite energetic ninja Yuffie, one of the characters in Cloud's party from the original game. Here we get to play as her and see what she was doing before she linked up with Cloud in the original, which is great because this is brand new story content and lore that we've never before seen in Final Fantasy VII. And is it good? Yes, it's great. Not only does this DLC have a well-written story about Yuffie's exploits in Midgar, but it also manages to do something that I really appreciate, which is turn her into a likable character with a ton of depth. This is something that I felt like she lacked in the original, which is understandable since she was an optional character who you could miss entirely from recruiting, but here, thankfully, the solid character writing from the base game has definitely carried over to make her a solid character, and I really appreciate that. I think that's great. We also see a ton of new and returning faces in this DLC, which are equally compelling. So in the character and story department, this DLC is just as good as the base remake. There are also several things that the DLC does way better than the base remake, namely the side quests, level design, and combat. One of my main issues with an otherwise fantastic base game and remake was that none of its side quests were really all that engaging and compelling. Whenever Cloud had to go around Midgar helping people find their cats or missing children or what have you, I always felt myself wanting to immediately go back to the main story after I was done completing those side quests because it was just that much better than all of these side quests, right? And in addition to this, the level design was largely bland and uninspired in many areas. I feel like Square really learned though and significantly improved upon a lot of those things with Intermission DLC. Side quests are really fun now with things like the amazing Fort Condor board game. Oh my god, I freaking loved that board game so much. Come on, no way. No way. No way. No fucking way. No fucking way. Oh my god, we're actually gonna win. Oh my fucking god, we actually won that. And even the level design is much improved with better designed puzzles and navigation and things to do for the player at all time to keep them engaged, such as being able to throw your shuriken in boxes when going across platforms with Yuffie. It's really fun, and I appreciate that Square is making an effort to really improve upon the things that were a bit lackluster in the base remake. The combat too, oh my god, the combat is so much more fun than in the base game. It was already superb there, but here it was just cranked to 1,000,000, right? That's how much better it was. Yuffie's ninja class and abilities were a blast to use, and there's even a new mechanic in this DLC called Synergize, where Yuffie and her partner in crime, Sonin, can do these amazing tag combos together. It's just all of it was so gosh darn compelling and addicting, and it just merged together so well. I was on my toes at all times in the best way possible, and the gameplay was simply riveting. I loved it. Hands down, the best part of this DLC was Square taking things from the base game and improving upon them in every way possible, just like the base game did with the original Final Fantasy VII from the 90s. Right now, they're proving to me that everything FF7 related that they put out is going to be bigger and better than the last. So for that reason, I simply cannot wait for the next part of Final Fantasy VII Remake to come out. I, the irritable Indian, aka Addy, had a big old grin on my face throughout my entire playtime of Final Fantasy VII Remake, both the original and Intergrade, and I even have one right now. So I'm gonna give this bad boy a grand old 10 out of 10. I could be biased, right? This may be the hardcore FF7 fanboy in me talking whose favorite game of all time is Final Fantasy VII. I don't know. But you can't deny how beautifully Square Enix brought Final Fantasy VII to life with this remake, and then made it even better with this Intergrade/Intermission expansion. So for that reason, I can't not give them the highest possible rating for pulling off the impossible, man. Right now is the best possible time to be a Final Fantasy VII fan. And even if you're not, I highly recommend you guys go out and buy Final Fantasy VII Remake or Remake Intergrade if you're on PS5, because trust me, you won't regret it, and you definitely should check out this amazing, incredible, beautiful universe. But anyways, that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next one, keep on keeping on.